So just to go over the agenda for tonight, so it's already our second to last class, our last in-person class. And tonight there's not going to be any new assignments or anything like that. This is all just stuff meant to like sort of enhance your knowledge of what's out there in R, and if you choose to use it for your final project, you can. It's not like required to use. We're going to do some like really fun interactive mapping stuff and things that you can put into a markdown report. We're going to talk about some of the packages that allow you to do some of the geospatial analysis in R, and I'm going to do quite a few demos. We'll break it up with a break in between, but we should still get done early so that there's time for people to either work on assignments that they need to work on or be working on their final project in this setting where you can get help, you know, either from me or by talking to each other. So that's what we've got planned coming ahead. And then for week 8, which will be, I'll post it a week from now on Monday, it's also not going to have an assignment associated with it because, again, that's the last week, and I just want you guys to focus on your final projects, but it's going to be talking about sort of the world of Python and R working together, because since they're both such big data science languages, there are a lot of tools out there for using both of them. So that's going to be kind of the theme for week 8, and also like anything else that I run into that I think you might want to know going forward, I'll try to throw it into a week 8 recording and stuff like that. So I think the first thing that we should start with are the online learning activity number 2, the assignment where you just get an R-powered visualization or analysis from the web, and then just an informal presentation. Just talk about it for like 5 minutes. I'm not going to be timing you, but I am going to have it on the integrity recording so that other people who are joining in online can watch it from home. And just as a reminder, anyone who's joining in online or plans to do it online, just upload your own integrity recording at home and stuff. And I will be posting a folder, like these folders, that has links to all of the visualizations or applications that you guys talk about. So if you guys are wondering if you can look at them later, I will post all the links that you send me in there. So I'm just gonna pull someone's up. So let's see. Let's see. Oh, integrity recorder wants to access the control. I don't know if I want to allow this. I don't know. That makes me nervous. Who had the R in finance again? Are you okay with going first? Yeah, okay. Here, I'll move out of the way and I will start the slideshow. I think. I hope. It just went black. Uh-oh. There it is. Okay, record this display, I guess. Hopefully we're still rolling. Okay, I think it's I think it's working.
Alright, so I looked at this blog called R in Finance. It's created by this Brazilian professor, and he's also written a book on it about using R to do financial analysis and like stock analysis. So, so like a lot of the things that he talks about in his blog is kind of like ways to use R to to illustrate financial concepts, and he also uses it to kind of debunk some myths as well. So I have a couple examples. So this one, like one of the things that is kind of knowledge amongst finance people, that like long-term investments are good, you know, just keep it going, don't sell right away. And so he took all this historical data from, I think it was the past 50 years in the S&P 500, and plotted out like if you just bought some stock in there and like what are the probabilities that you'd have a profit over time. And so, starting at, 0 years, there's like a 50% chance you get a profit, and then the longer you keep it, the better chance that you'll really get a profit, up to like pretty much 100%. Another one he did was, in Brazil they have kind of low financial literacy, and so there's a lot of scammers or online courses that kind of claim more than they could deliver. And so he found this one that was claiming this like incredibly high rate of return, and so he created a bot called the God bot, where it's like, well, if they are claiming that they can make about 20% a month return, well, if I use this God bot to, get like a perfect return on every investment over time, see what happens. And he's like found that like the claim was like just shy of what the Godbot could do, which that means they had a near perfect prediction, which you can't really do. Like, it's just impossible. So it's kind of debunking that. And then also he's created several packages in CRAN that you could use to like download data from the stock market. A lot of these are Brazilian specific because he is in Brazil, but you know, these are available for free. And there's his blog here. If you want to look at it, also he kind of talks about a lot of updates to his packages, but also this one is that post kind of debunking the claims of the online courses. So yeah.
Yeah, I see an increasing amount of jobs in the finance sector. It seems to be really big there.
Oh, I guess the blog never showed up on that screen.
Oh yeah, it did. Oh, that's weird. Oh no. Let's see. I actually cannot get out of it. It must be the integrity recording thing. Jeez. Let's see. This is the only thing I can think of to do. Oh man. Oh, I made it out. Okay, there's the blog, and I will get links to these, whatever blogs you guys talk about, and put them in that shared folder I was talking about. And for anyone who walked in, if you want to email me your presentation in whatever form, or just a link if you're not doing slides, which is totally fine, then just send it to me at some point, and we're just doing it on my computer so that people can who are joining in online can listen to them later. So I will pull someone else's up. Oh, looks like I got Eric's here. And I'll try to do slideshow mode, but this time maybe I'll be better at it, getting out of it. But no promises.
So I have a history background, and so one of the primary sources for history is newspapers. So this kind of caught my attention. And what happened was Luxembourg Library released just a giant archive of all the scans of all the newspaper. And so this guy started by looking at seeing if he could create a topic model of just with the ads to start with. And so he wanted to see if he could group the topics, themes, or contents, and see how well he could do it. He started by creating a function to make a tibble, and that only had two columns, one for the word and one for where the which newspaper it was found in. And then he removed common words and German words just so that he could get the unique words to build the models off of. Then he ran an LDA function for the linear discriminant analysis, and he set that to create 10 topics from all the words and 5 words for each topic. And it seemed to have mixed results. Some of them worked really well, like the fourth model. It's grouped them by leather, boots, miss, soles, and grief. So probably a lot of ads for women's shoes on that page. And then also there was another grouping for like music with piano, April, June dances. So probably a lot of advertises for dances and events. Some of the topics groupings didn't turn out so well, or else there's some weird stuff going on in Luxembourg theaters because it grouped shoes, theater, fuel, and fart. He admitted that it might just be a freak occurrence, and if he changed the number of groupings or played with the numbers a little bit, it might make groupings that make more sense. But 10 is just an easy number to start with. For the packages, he used the tidyverse, tidytext, and then topic models, and then this was what did most of the heavy lifting. And it built it was used for the probable modeling to look for terms or word frequency and occurrences in the documents. And then he also made his own package called Bro Tools. And there's just 6 functions in there, and they're really simple, basic ones that he just used a lot or found really useful, like returning true if something wasn't in the list, or filtering it by one condition each, or removing duplicates. He ended up going on and keep playing with this little project of his, I guess. And he added more packages in the future from the analysis I initially started looking at. And he's recently added text rank, which pulls relevant sentences and summarizes articles now, and for which I guess combines per and futures. I don't know how well you can see it here, but yeah, he's made his own web page for the newspaper scans, so that it's more than just ads now, and then you can summarize articles also, or it'll show summaries of the articles also. Yeah.
Actually, text parsing is really difficult task for any programming language to do, and like that's a really neat model. And I think we'll talk about, I think I'm going to try and talk about Per, like that package in the last class, class 8, because it's probably really growing in popularity and definitely like way up there in the tidyverse as far as how many times people have downloaded it. Okay, I think I figured this out. Maybe, yeah. Cool. Okay, let's see. Oh, they have one for. Okay, I'm gonna say okay this time and let it, whatever interaction it wants to do. Okay.
Right, so what I chose to look at was an analysis about global convergence and male life expectancy at birth by Dr. Ilya Kuznetsov. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. I'm not sure. My Russian is pretty bad. And I found this in his blog called Demographer's Notes. He's a postdoctorate fellow at, I believe, the University of Southern Denmark, and he's a demographer. So his blog is generally geared towards demographers or people who have an interest in demography. So this is pretty much the content of the particular blog entry that I'm looking at. It's an analysis, a visualization of the male life expectancy at birth since 1950. The data source is from the United Nations prospectus from 2015. So I feel like it's a pretty legitimate data source that he utilized. And kind of on an aside, I find it really interesting that it kind of goes from a bimodal distribution to almost a trimodal distribution, if that's even a thing, down to almost getting to be more of a normal distribution at the bottom. So he was kind enough to provide his code, and he downloaded a total of 6 packages. The first one's a tidyverse that we're all pretty familiar with. The next one is ForCats, which he did this analysis in 2017, so I'm not sure if ForCats was not a part of the tidyverse at that point in time, but he called that particular package in his code. It provides tools that apparently solve problems with factors, and so categorical variables, and it allows you, one of the things it allows you to do is to rank your variables. He called WPP 2015, which is his data source, his UN data source, so kind of like when we use our IRIS, we call our IRIS data set. Then one that I find really interesting is the GG-Joy package, which creates those multiple density plots. So that's what he used to create all those different density plots, kind of on top of each other. The package is now called GG Ridges. It was created, I think, in about 2017, 2016. It was named after the band Joy Division, but he found out what Joy Division meant and decided it was inappropriate and changed it to GG Ridges. He also called the Veritas package, which provides 5 different color scales that are used in a Python package. I'm not sure if it's pronounced matplotlib. Excellent. So it's the Veritas color scales. They are better suited to grayscale rendering, and they're also better for people with certain types of color blindness. And he also called extra fonts, which allows you to use other fonts than those already available in your in R in your output. So here's just an example of the different Veritas color packages. They look much more magnificent on the screen here than what is showing up there. Like with names like Magma, Plasma, and Inferno, they're pretty bright and vibrant. So here's his code. I'm not going to go through it line by line, but in ggplot, underneath that is the geom_joy. That's where he calls the ggjoy package. So you call it just like any other geometry, so like geom point or geom line or something like that. And then underneath that is where he calls this scale, the Veritas color scales. And the arguments that are used are like, do you want discrete colors or do you want a color ramp? The option is which color ramp do you want? They're all assigned a letter. And then what direction you want the color scale to go, from left to right or right to left, like the hot to cold or cold to hot. And then the begin and end are which hues you want to utilize to start and end with. And then down at the bottom, under theme, minimal, that's where he calls the specific font that he wants to use, which in this case is Roboto condensed. Overall, I feel like R was a, there's not a lot of code to create such a, what I feel like is a powerful visual. So I feel like R was a really good choice in this particular instance to utilize for his demographic analysis. So, thanks.
I think that visualization is really neat. It looks like it's moving on the screen almost. There's just like so much depth to those colors. Okay, I'm gonna pull up. Oh, that was yours. Excellent. I've got World Soccer Analytics to loop. This is very topical. Did you go to the stadium? It's looking really busy down there because I live over that way, so.
It's actually available on the link you sent out.
Oh, is that the right link?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I chose one of these analyses, the international soccer matches. So it's actually done by these guys, Stefan Goetz, and it's an analysis and visualization of the growth of soccer around the world from 1872 to 2018. And the output is this world GIF map. And although the data for this analysis is not available on this blog, and there is also a link to a Github page, and it's not available there as well. But from this output, we can tell that the structure of the data would be records of international matches as the rows, and cities, dates, longitude and latitude, countries as columns, and other in-game information such as the final scores and fouls, which are not needed for these analyses. And down below is a snippet of the code used for the analysis. And further down is the GitHub link, which I would open.
want me to put it in?
Yeah, just put it in.
My trackpad settings are all like, customized.
Okay.
It's weird that they didn't make it clickable though. You know?
No, yes, it's not clickable.
That's weird. Yeah, I've just changed my settings too, so I probably made it really difficult on you. There you go. Cool. So that's his GitHub page.
Yes. Okay, so there's the code right here, and right here has the list of the packages used for this coding, and varieties, which is for color symbolization. And these, I looked at most of these packages, and apart from like from number 12 to 15, those are available in tidyverse. Number 17 also, and 18, which is magic, 19 the GG animate, and 22 the animation. Those were combined to for the animation, which is to present the map in a GIF format. And one interesting package is the leaflet, because this, I think, in internet mapping class, there was actually an assignment which was required of us, which requires using leaflet API, and seeing that package available in R, I think that would be very interesting. I would have loved to open this leaflet page and see the features of the API, and if those will be available in the package. Yeah, that would be nice. And the open XLS, which is what actually used for manipulating the data from Excel form. And
Which one put in?
the open XLS.
Oh, you want to look at the documentation of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I tried to paste it in.
You put an open XLS.
Yeah, but then I looked at it online, and I can the functions of the package are listed down below. There are a whole lot of interesting functions underneath it, and that's it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. I can pull that package up later because I was planning to talk about data info a little bit, so we can take a look at that in a bit. But actually, we're going to talk about Leaflet today, and we're going to do some mapping with Leaflet. So that's awesome that you brought that up.
Oh.
So I'm learning that I should be using the Viridis library because it keeps showing up. These are really great though. I should have started clapping for you guys, but then I was holding my Laura's book, and then I didn't want to not clap for some people and clap for others, so sorry. What do we have? Oh.
Okay.
Yep. Here, I'll try to put this integrity thing out of the way. It's kind of in the way. Is it still going?
Can you either pause?
No, I think this is great. These are really, really cool things that you guys found.
So, this one is creating map plots. this one's kind of like a tutorial, which is fun. Kind of opened my eyes to some ways that you can use R programming to make some pretty visually pleasing maps. I'm on the wrong computer here. So they had created maps, heat maps of 911 calls in Seattle. So they wanted to take this a step further, and they're actually doing crime mapping in Seattle, and they use it all through R. So they set it up and they install and they load these packages, and this one that's called Lubridate, it kind of takes the quirks out of dates. So daylight savings times, and if there's a leap year and things like that, it helps normalize all of that data. Instead of, basically this blogger said that R can run an error if there's a 29th of February or something like that. So that kind of normalizes it. We know what ggplot2 is. Data table is for large data, and you can aggregate the data and just things that you're doing while manipulating large sets of data. It can be done faster using data table. And then ggrepel prevents overlapping text labels in your maps. And then for some reason they had data table twice, but we know the other one. So they load these libraries. They have basically a sample data set through a CSV, kind of like we've done. They look at the data sets. We've done all of this. They create some color variables before they actually do the graphing. And then they filter out by year. So the map production is pretty intricate, but like you were saying before, kind of this not a lot of code for some really great output, and this is kind of that same deal. They actually used Google Cloud for an API key, and then they were able to get aerial backgrounds like an ArcMap. So apparently you can do a free trial because it actually costs money. So they got this API key with their demo, and they go through the whole process of how you get credentialed and stuff like that for that. And then they register that API key into R, which is actually pretty cool. They do, color codes for the different kinds of crimes, and this is their output, just like that in R. It's something that is impressive. So, they did it a couple different ways. Here's using one color with a little bit of transparency, and they kind of talk about how you do that and the themes you would use for that. And they just go through different ways you can do it. You could do different shapes for the different neighborhoods, as you can see there. The most dangerous crimes, you can single those out. Yeah, so there's a lot of potential for some real mapping quite quickly on R programming. Yeah, this one here I thought was pretty cool, that you can actually use polygons with different symbologies. So as you can see there. So yeah, it's super detailed into how to do every single step. It was pretty cool to read. But yeah. So that's about it.
I would say after tonight, you could recreate those. You guys will see with Leaflet and some of the other APIs we're going to use. It's 2 lines of code, and you've got weather data, you've got elevation data, you've got points on any base map that you want. Well, not any base map you want. Usually you have to get a token, but I think I'm going to close this. I'm sorry, it was loud. But I think everybody's in here. That's cool. Let's see. Whose was this one? I can't remember. Oh, it's yours? Okay.
It's actually perfect that I'm going right after reading. It's very similar.
Yay, maps!
Yep. Yay, crime data. Yeah.
Okay, so this one is kind of similar where it kind of walks you through the steps. This visualization here is basically what they end up with, so it's a little bit different of like sort of symbology. It's a little bit more simple. So I guess just two different ways of visualizing your stuff. Again, just like a lot of narrative, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I would, I can, okay. Scared of your trackpad, but so a lot of these are going to be similar things that we've used, or like Rihanna just mentioned, the Lubridate. The foreign library is for reading and writing files from like Minitab or SPSS or other tools like that. Xtable is for printing tables as latex or HTML, so just like a different way of formatting them. Scales is for scaling your data and making legends. Our color brewer is preset color themes, which are really cool. I'll actually pull that. Let me just do really quick. Where did I have this? Because they talk about this later in the code, so I might as well pull it up so I can show you guys. It's really cool, actually.
My undergrad
Color.
was using color brewer for every color.
Yeah, it's really, I had never used it before, but it's this, then, I mean, you basically like use a library within R, but you can use it for all kinds of other things, where they already have like sort of preset color themes, that colors that go together. You can say like how many data classes you have. So like, oh, I have 9, so now you have like 9, you know, in the same color spectrum. Mine are going to be qualitative since they're different crime types, so there doesn't necessarily need to be like a scale. But so then for theirs, so you just have different like sets of colors down here, like a light blue and a dark blue, a light green and a dark green, and you can just use them together like that. And so just using this website to select your colors. Other stuff, the map tools, and then the ones down there, map tools, SP, SPAT, STAT, they're going to be for spatial data specifically, just loading these libraries because they'll use usually 1 or 2 functions out of each of them. So the first thing that they do is they get all their data. This is for Baltimore specifically, and Baltimore has all their data online, open source. So like their city boundaries, their neighborhood boundaries, their crime data, CSVs, all that stuff. So they get it right from the city. And so they use read OGR to get the city line for Baltimore. They talk about using SP transform to transform the projection of your map stuff. This guy gets like, he's really excited about the nerdy part of it, he says. And he doesn't actually end up doing it in this function, but mentions that it's possible. So you can see here, you could like change it to lat long and WGS84. So you can mess with the projections of your maps within R, which is kind of cool. I didn't realize it would get that advanced. And then storing the original projection of the data that you get in it, so that if you modify it later, you can always go back to the original. Creating a data frame from the shape files, so taking like the city line and turning that into a data frame so that you can mess with the specific like lines or polygons or whatever. They used the fortify function for that. And then he creates the bound plot object, which is basically a polygon of the city boundary. So it looks like that. And then the neighborhoods plot, which he gets a shapefile for that and goes through a very similar process to convert the shapefile into here as well. So that's the different neighborhoods of Baltimore. Then he does a read CSV to get the crime data from Baltimore into R. and that's the different types of data that he's working with. And then, so formatting the crime data, so formatting like the lat long, from lat long to storing it as coordinates to having R recognize it as spatial objects, and then again mentioning like the projection, and then using coordinates to like basically retrieve the coordinates that R has assigned it for like the plot, versus, because lat long, if you think about it, it's actually like it's points on a globe, so a distance on a globe is going to be different than a distance on like a 2D map, and so assigning the coordinates and like working with the transformations to transform it from a 3D lat long to a coordinates for your plot, for your GG plot, basically. All of these steps basically go into doing that. And then here is where he actually uses the color brewer and uses, so it's the function here, brewer.pal for palette, basically saying that there's 12 color palette and using the paired colors. So if you go over here to the color brewer, he's using this specific set of colors right here because it's the qualitative one using 12 colors. And so basically assigning, so for example, he'll have one type of crime, say that like, my burglaries are going to show up in blue, and then the density lines that I make are going to be this dark blue. So they kind of go together. So what he does here is he creates a bunch of arrays basically to say that arson is going to be color 1 and color 2, shooting is going to be color 5 and color 6, and that sort of thing, and then just kind of runs through it and assigns like crime type names based on the titles of those crimes. And then that allows him to basically loop through and run one function and create maps for all the different crime types using those specific color sets for each crime type. So for here, so then what this ends up doing is it creates the color object. Okay, yeah. So it plots the neighborhood outlines here. So this whole function P does all of this, and what it does is it creates the neighborhood outlines. It plots the crime points per crime type, so per subset, using the geom point. So the alpha 0.8 is like the transparency level, and the guide equals F. That means there's no legend that's going to show up. It's just going to be like a simple map. Then it also plots the density lines to show like the density of the objects themselves. The 2D kernel density, they call it, for the crime type using the second color. So you'll see like the for crime type 1, that's going to be like that first color in the color array that he makes, and then crime type 2, that's going to be the second color, so like the lighter color for the crimes and the darker color for the density lines. And then putting a label sort of at this exact point on the specific plot. And then he does a few different times doing like string replace and that kind of thing to get rid of spaces and dashes and stuff to make them all uniform and make them underscores. And then here he replaces them back with spaces so that it's pretty, and then saves it kind of as one file so that he runs one function and gets all of these maps one after the other to be saved just by running it, since he has the function sort of doing the subsetting and running it for each in a for loop to do them. So then it just spits out each one where the city and the neighborhoods have the same symbology, but then those colors again are going back to like the different crime types. And then you can easily see where the crimes are occurring. And so this is super helpful. This is actually something that I will probably try to do for Burnsville at work. I mean, this seems super simple, something I could do really easily. And the maps are really like intuitive, right? Like almost anybody can look at that and understand what it's trying to show. So that's why I liked it, is it was really clean and simple. And yeah, and then the rest is just comments. So.
Yeah, I live for these tutorials that people
put up for finding out how to do anything. It's amazing how many times I have something I want to do and someone else has done something very similar.
Yeah, and the documentation for R2, like being able to look up what each of those functions do, it's like, oh, now I actually understand what that one means, which, yeah, it's really nice.
It is, and hopefully it's like helpful when you see some of that stuff we're familiar with in there, like the stringer commands, and like it's coming from stringer, and then also like with the 2D density plots. If you'll remember, this was coming from the stat package, I think, but if you'll remember, the ggplot had that as well. So there's a lot of redundancy throughout the libraries, but it's also kind of nice because hopefully they name them something similar if it's based on a stats thing. So that's what R is good at. Okay, so that's mine.
I emailed you a couple of them.
Oh, okay. I think we have eWorms as well. Is those yours? Right? Okay. Cool. I'll pull that one up and then I'll check my email in a sec.
Okay, I would just say mine is an intro to what she did. So it's basically a tutorial also on how to handle shapefiles in R. There's a little bit of it. There's a little bit on rasters too over there, and this kind of caught my attention and grabbed my interest because a lot of us after school no longer have access to ArcGIS. I tried learning QGIS, but I failed because I still had ArcGIS to go back to. So I thought of like, why should I even learn QGIS? But gradually that reality is dawning on me that very soon, probably by August, I wouldn't have ArcGIS to work with anymore. And so I find tutorials like this, very useful because they give you the basic workflow on how to handle, data, be it in CSV, work with it and then subset it or save it as a shapefile at the end. And so this tutorial kind of provides that basic workflow. It has a table of contents at the end. Something that really also caught my attention is there was this one time I was asked at work to update some emergency preparedness shapefiles with data from OpenStreetMaps. I got the point data. I mean, that was very easy to work with. It's just a matter of pointing to the X and Y fields and boom, you have it, right? But there was this aspect of polygons to after using the OpenStreet API, it spit out the thing as a CSV with the line coordinates and all that. And then I got stuck on how do I pull these lines into ArcGIS and have the polygons show where they have like all these police stations and fire stations and what have you. So this bit of workflow over here, you can also request for the code, the full code is at the end. There is a link at the bottom where you get the entire code to work with. And this little bit over here actually shows you how to save whatever you have worked on as a shapefile from a CSV format. For example, during the last one-on-one or in-person class we had this very huge data set that we had to work with, and it came to a point where we had to subset. If you want to, you can just point to that data, the subset that you have created, and then save it as a CSV file using this little bit of code over here. But when you go through this tutorial, it shows you how to do the projections like what they talked about previously, using the SP
library that we have over here. And so actually the whole tutorial is hinged on just these 3 libraries that are in here. So I would encourage anybody who is interested in working outside, ArcGIS to take a look at it and have fun with it. I've not gone into details with it, but I see it as something that is promising and kind of gives me a little window outside ArcGIS. Yeah. Thank you.
This is going to be a great resource to post, and we're going to get briefly into all of these things today. And Ilya, you make a really good point, because when I graduated from here, I didn't have my ArcGIS license for a while, and was using Q and stuff. But then I started transitioning to using R as a GIS more frequently, mostly for visualization, but I've started using it more for the geospatial analysis stuff too. And all of this projection data, it's still just data, and it's definitely readable in R. It's just finding the tutorial that shows you how to do it and getting it to work, which can still be a challenge, but I think the more tools people are writing, the easier it's getting, and they're always coming out with new versions of RGDAL and the SP package. So yeah, the one thing I haven't figured out is I can reproject my shapefiles just fine, and we'll do that today, or point data, but raster data still is very difficult for me in R, and getting it has, it'll import and it will have the coordinate data, coordinate reference system and all that, but changing that, manipulating that for me with raster data is a lot harder, because it seems it definitely depends on the file format and stuff like that. But so if anyone gets into that for their final project or something, I would be very interested in seeing that, because it still eludes me quite a bit. And oh yeah, I was gonna check my email. Oop, there. I always feel I'm so in the way in this weird little corner. Some interesting way out to a classroom.
All right, so the blog that I chose is basically an answer to somebody's question, where they asked for a one-stop shop of all the commands that they can use in Dplyr that will work with the various type of backend database management systems that they might need. So before I started getting into this, I just tried to use R to connect to a database, and was able to do so, and able to query tables and run statements and stuff. So I thought that was pretty useful. For my job, I have to tunnel into customer databases of all different sorts, and so if I'm running a query in one and I have to go to another database type, a lot of my time is spent revising that query, just because of all the statements are not ubiquitous, whether you're in Oracle or DB2 or whatever database you're in. So I thought that this article is pretty cool. Basically, he's going to create this visualization that allows you to figure out all of the Dplyr commands and being able to figure out if they're available or if they translate, if they have a SQL translation based on the database type. So some of these are, I believe, probably open source, and so they're not super common, but Access is pretty common. Microsoft SQL Server is common. MySQL is open source but pretty common. Oracle is another common one. Oracle is super finicky though. I really did not enjoy using Oracle databases, but ultimately this guy used or created a script in R to basically create this illustration. So this article just basically kind of outlines how he did it. Apparently he only used these 3 libraries, but I tried to replicate a lot of this stuff and was having issues. So I don't know if he had already installed other libraries or not, but I think I had to install per as well. But basically he's taking in all of these packages from CRAN, so that he can then kind of comb through them. These are all packages that ultimately elicit the dbplyr package, but he's using them so that he can create this tibble where he has the package type, and then he's combing through to see if they have this specific string SQL translate. And then it gives them the namespace of that, so whether it's Access or Oracle or whatever the case may be. So you can see like dbplyr has a lot of hits for that translate function. So that's how he knows, which of these packages are actually able to connect to a database. He goes into further logic here that, so not only does he need the namespace, but then he goes in and he tries to figure out, he uses this mapdf function a lot, which basically just allows you to take one function and apply it to a list of elements. So in this case, his list of elements is all the packages that he was importing from above. But ultimately, his end goal is to get the package name, the SQL translation, I guess, hit or keyword, and then ultimately he's extracting the function that each of these translation methods use, or that they can use. And then he uses a ggplot here to create his illustrations. So a lot of this stuff we've kind of seen already, but he's sort of creating the headers of his table here at the top, mutating in order to, if a cell needs to be highlighted, he uses this mutate n equals 1. I believe further down he uses this complete to join the database type with the function. He brings in this factor and levels, which we kind of learned about, I think, in class 2 or 3, so that for every time there's a function median hit, it doesn't include duplicates. So it only just brings the unique value over once. And then some more, visualization with the color and the scale and all that sort of stuff, the size, the title. But yeah, ultimately this is his output once he queries for the data and then draws it out using ggplot2. And so rather than, someone just posted this in a forum, I guess, or on Twitter, and so I just thought it was pretty neat that, a lot of this stuff is people just kind of going back and forth in their day-to-day, and him being able to provide this was pretty slick. So rather than trying to sit there and figure out, is it going to work, you can just use this to figure out, is it currently supported with whatever package version you're using. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's extremely useful. So, yeah, that kind of reminds me, there's definitely a lot of SQL packages, and I didn't really have planned to talk about it because doing a demo is really difficult if you don't have a SQL database that you can use as an example data set. I know of some in other labs, but it's not my data kind of thing. So I don't work with that big of a data set, but I could share for class 8, I could share some packages that I've used for classes in the past for working with SQL, if some of you guys work with SQL for work, if that would be useful. Just whatever I've come across in the last couple years. Because I've definitely used some, like MariaDB and SQLite and stuff. And I'll pull yours up quick.
Mail, yeah.
What am I doing? There we go. Ooh, Airbnb. And it takes a second to switch over for some reason with PowerPoint.
All right, so I found this blog by Ricardo Bjorn. He's one of the, I wouldn't say the founders of Airbnb, but he's one of the first engineers at Airbnb. And he has since kind of started this blog that he runs and facilitates, and they have all sorts of different stuff on there, from machine learning to how they plan to better their mobile app. It's kind of a wide range of stuff, but what I thought was most interesting about how Airbnb uses R programming is that they actually encourage every employee to use it as well. So they go through a week-long training in their first month of working for Airbnb. So those not familiar with what Airbnb is, it's like a you can sign up to have your home either hosted, so you can host different people, or you can sign up to go. It's all app based, but you can sign up to go to these other people's homes, and you pay for it like a hotel, so you can do a room or a whole place or whatever. And there's they've kind of expanded now to also experiences and all sorts of different stuff, but they're kind of new. So they started using it soon after creation. So this guy, as I said, is kind of on the main like advocate team for R in the start of the company. So they worked on addressing kind of the three main challenges we talked about here in class, as well as the duplication of work within the team, lack of transparency about how the tools are written or lack of documentation, and the difficult sharing new developments with other users, which would slow down productivity. And he talked about specifically they bring in all sorts of different backgrounds purposefully into their team. So this is kind of a way for people to either come up with new ideas or share the ideas that they already have. I keep trying to use the mouse up here.
I keep trying to highlight.
So their solution to this was the GitHub Enterprise. So they have their own GitHub, and they, as I said, they have this blog. So they publish some of their stuff publicly, and then some of it is internal as well. But the big emphasis that he placed on this is the ability to peer review before stuff is posted. So they've now since, in just the last 2 years, have over 60 different functions, several active developers. They have nearly, 500 R Markdown research reports as well using. And so they have their package that they call it is Airbnb. So with them having a kind of a variety of different backgrounds, one of the main things that this guy really emphasized is that he was frustrated that he used to have to like download CSV files and then load them in and then manipulate them. So he had used this Presto to kind of channel between different, like whether it was SQL servers, or they use a storage service through Amazon called Amazon S3. So it gave him the ability to pull information, I guess, easier through these. I don't know much about R Presto. I couldn't really find much out there about it either. One of the 5 top searches was this blog. So, but it says it's a DBI-based adapter for open source distributed SQL query engine, Presto for running interactive analytic queries. So it is a package that is out there that you can install, but I don't have much information on how to use it. But they did have a little bit of how they pull in some stuff.
It may be internal to their, like it may have been packaged that they made just for their.
And I think that they've shared it.
Okay.
So on their GitHub Enterprise, they do have some packages and functions that they've shared out there that you can pull, but they don't really have much information on how to use it.
Right, yeah.
So this one they've kind of created internally, I guess, and published it, but it seems like it would be handy for like to be able to pull stuff, especially from their storage space without having to download it in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how they that piece was a little lost. And then they've also used they have packages created for employee templates so that everything is kind of standardized. And then they have just like their, it shows like the difference between like the ggplot classic theme, and then the branded themes that they have that kind of fit more within their coloring and then how they want to see certain products. So that's all available. You can actually grab that as well from their GitHub, is their templates for this stuff. And then they do a little bit of the shiny, but this is just another a style sheet that they use internally. And then again, they use all that same R package. All right. But I talked about it a little bit in the beginning. So this guy had started kind of the infrastructure for this newer company, and they encourage everybody to use this program and share what they've learned. And they kind of do a mentorship program as well within their company. So every new employee also gets a mentor as well as going through this week-long class. But it seems like they're a bit known at this point because they give talks at all these different conferences for R and sponsor different events. And then there's a bunch that I had also found that they had different developers actually come to their space to see what they do. But this image, which I was...
Oh, it might not show up.
Oh.
We escaped.
Oh, okay. There's just one piece of the blog that
Yeah.
I wish they had showed more of. They did not. They just used it to entice me into the article.
Take a second. It's really
Okay.
slow with the PowerPoint.
I've crashed mine before on
Yeah.
integrity
Yeah.
with the PowerPoint. It's saved though. I had to turn off my computer and it saved 15 minutes of me eating ice cream. I don't know that it's gonna go.
Well, and I'll post a link to this too
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's.
See there, little GG plot.
Oh yeah. Let's see. And oh yeah, maybe I have to end it. Okay. Was there anything else you want to say about this?
No, just they didn't say anything about how they used it, actually created this, but
It's really cool.
it is really cool. I mean, it's with GG Flat. Yeah.
Neat. Really? Wow. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Oh yeah, created with Arch. Oh wow, that's neat. I like that a lot. Okay, I think that's everybody here. So I'm actually going to